and the place where she was born. I could never understand when I held my grandma's hand, why she always seemed to look so far away. She was thinking of that place that brought sadness to her face, and the little girl the white folks threw away. So, anyone got any questions about anything? Because if you got the questions, I got the answers. And, anything like that.
I'd like to know a bit about the rivers and the stories that you have about
I'm
the
going
rivers
to be
forming
bloody
in this
deaf.
area.
Eh?
Sorry, just the stories that you have about the rivers forming in this area, the Ovens and the King and flowing into the Murray, or anything you've got around that?
Sorry.
I've usually got a loud voice. I was wondering about the stories you have about the rivers,
Yeah.
the King and the Ovens,
Yeah.
linked up with the Murray. And maybe you can tell us a story about that.
Well, the main story of them is how they all got made. And how they all got made is for years we'd had a really bad drought. But lately, things are changing, whether we believe it or not, because we haven't had a really bad drought for a long time. And I can remember. Like I remember with the rabbits, we used to go the rabbits would run along with a big pile of dust flying along behind them, and that's not happening to me anymore. Anyway, there'd been years of drought, and the ground was just covered in like dust. You know, it was like when you get up, someone's been driving up a track for ages and there's bloody dust that thick. Anyway, the dust was everywhere, and all the water holes were drying up. So the tribal got together and they said, Bangarang tribe, and they said, what are we going to do? Because Miami isn't sending us any rain anymore. I wonder how we can combat this. And he said, well, I want all you people who are a snake totem to come to the meeting tomorrow. So they came and they all sit around a circle like that. And he said, no, stand up. And they all stood up. He said, I want you to be snakes. He said, I want you to all be snakes. And I want you to crawl to the snakes up in the mountains, because up in the mountains there's big pythons, you know, and they call them rainbow serpents, the rainbow snake. And all they lived in the mountains. They never came down this way because they used to live on different foods up there that they were getting. And anyway, so we all call little snakes up there. So they all got around, they all singing, whatever they were singing. And anyway, they kept doing this and doing this and doing this. And next minute the snakes could hear them. And they started coming down. And they came down. As they came down the hills, because it's all still dust, as they were coming down, they were going like that and making grooves in the sand, in the dust. All of them were making grooves in the dust. And then they come down here to Wangaratta, and the chief, oh that's right, yeah that's right, the chief said, I want you, he could talk to them in them days, and he called in out to the snakes, he says, I want you to all join up together and go 3 days to the west and then turn south. He said, and you'll find all the water you'll ever need. So they did. They all joined up in one big line. And they went down like that, and they went right up there until they ended up at Adelaide. They went into the river, into the stream, and that's where they call them water serpents, what do they call them? Sea serpents after that. Anyway, so, and then after that all gone, Miami Gunyak, his name was, the chief, and he called all people in again. He said, now, all you frog people, come in here and start singing and singing and singing, because we want rain, sing for rain. And so they all started singing and singing, and next minute they get look, and they go, frogs are all waking up. The next minute, down came the rain. And it poured rain for days and days. And as the rain came down from the hills, it followed all those rivers along like that and made little creeks. And then when they got down to Wangaratta, they come into rivers. And then other rivers joined up with them, and they ended up down in the Murray River. They followed the Murray River, because as they come past, up where the Murray is, they call it Tongala, that means big river. And then the river went down to Adelaide where the snakes went. And that's the story of the rivers. How they began, yeah. But, yeah, because... Anyway, yeah. You know where the Great Dividing Range is, down here? You all know where it is?
Yeah.
Go down past Mansfield and all that. And then, when you go to that there, Bangarang people are here. And they go all the way up to the Murrumbidgee. And on the other side here are the Babaralung people, who are one of the Kurnai mob. And they're our neighbours there. Now, from that Great Dividing Range, there's another range that goes up this way, right through Mount Buffalo and the other side of Beechworth, and ends up in the Barranduda range. You know where that is? The other side of Beechworth? Yeah. Right. Now, when it rains, all the water that runs this way, because that's a drying range, that all runs into Bangarang people's country. And all that water runs into the Kurnai people's country. And then along here, when it rains, all that goes that way, on those side of the range, it goes into the Bangarang, to the Yatman country. And then all this side runs into the Bangarang people, or Bangarang, whatever you want to say it. And so that's how they knew their boundaries, because any creeks that were running that way is in their country. And if they were sort of went over into this other people's country and they got caught, and they'd say, well, what are you doing in our country? And then say, oh, no, it's my country. Say, which way's the creek running, mate? Oh, it's running that way. your creek runs that way. So and that's how they knew their country. So there's never any arguments or fight. You can't have an argument, even if the creek's dry, you can tell which way it runs. Anyway, so, and those hills will be there long after any of us are gone. You know, they'll be there forever. So they had to use those for their boundary mark. Because there was no good saying, oh, that big tree's our boundary, because the big tree might be there next year, it's bloody blow down or whatever. There's fire, and so that was their boundary. And it runs, and when you get to the Murray, on the other side of the Murray, just say how long's here, and that range, you've got the river that goes through the middle of it, but the other side there's another range keeps going that way, and that's the New South Wales part of the Bangarang country, because all that range running into their country too. And the other side of it is Wiradjuri country, so it runs into Wiradjuri country. There's no arguments there either, you know, well, there shouldn't be. But yeah, that's how all the rivers sort of began, and that's how they used those rivers to mark out, you know, their country. And there was never any arguments over it, because when well, there's maps there going back to 1878, when the white man first started making the maps, and that shows you exactly what I was just telling you. And they didn't know they didn't know that the rain were in the Bangarang country. They just drew the map of their boundary. And I don't know anyone can tell you that, because I was told that when I was that big. Yeah. And a lot of these ones that made these maps, these ones but they're all hands-on. Like today, people make maps, but they're not real because they haven't got the people who can show them. Now,